Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the history of bishops, or the history of the Episcopal polity. Now, in the New Testament, I would say the Episcopal polity is there, but the terms bishop, episcopate, or presbyter, or elder, or even deacon are not really that well defined. Even in 2 Timothy 4:5, I believe, the word translated as ministry for Timothy is diakonos. And St. John Chrysostom talks about this in his commentary on Philippians. And he says that, the terminology was not really distinguished back then, but there was not a multiplicity of bishops in that one location. I would like to bring your attention to the letters of St. Ignatius of Antioch, who was a 1st and 2nd century saint who knew the Apostle John and was martyred. Now, in his letters, there is a very clear distinction between bishops, presbyters or priests, and deacons. You just have to read his letters to see this. And some people would like to question the authenticity of these letters. However, they may not find much ground for their ideas. Now, I'm going to direct you to a book called Ignatius of Antioch and the Arian Controversy. You can find this on Google Books. I'm not going to give a direct quote here because I don't want to get in copyright trouble. But if you go to page 5, it's in the introduction, and it's under the section called Contemporary Ignatian Scholarship. The author, Paul Gilliam III, will say that most scholars today accept at least one version of Ignatius's works, or the authenticity of them, I should say. And for that, he cites a source called Ignatius of Antioch by William Schodel. I would also like to direct your attention to the Shepherd of Hamas. Now, the Shepherd of Hamas is another very early Christian work, and as far as I know, there is not much, if any, doubt about its authenticity, even among Protestants. And some people date it to the late 1st century. However, I think most people date it to the early 2nd century. Now, if you go to Vision in the book, you go to Vision 3, Part 5, Section 13, Section 1. I know that sounds kind of weird. But anyway, let me read this to you. Hear now concerning the stones that go to the building, the stones that are squared and white, that fit together in their joints. These are the apostles and bishops and teachers and deacons, who walked after the holiness of God, and exercised their office of bishop and teacher and deacon in purity and sanctity for the elect of God, some of them already fallen on asleep and others still living. And because they always agreed with one another, they both had peace among themselves and listened to one another. Therefore, their joinings fit together in the building of the tower. And this is the J.B. Lightfoot translation. So you can see a pretty clear distinction of the threefold order, or in some cases fourfold if you include apostles, of ministry. The bishops, the presbyters, in this case called teachers, and then deacons. I'd also like to bring your attention to the works of St. Irenaeus of Lyon, who was a 2nd century Christian saint, and he wrote a very large book called Against Heresies. Now, it's divided into 5 books, and in Book 3, Chapter 3, he talks about a succession of bishops. Now, he talks about a whole line of individuals coming down from the apostles Peter and Paul. And he says that Linus was ordained by Peter and Paul to be the Bishop of Rome. And he gives a full list going on down from there. Now you may say that, well, this could just be bishop. The word bishop here could just be referring to the office of presbyter. However, this is very unlikely because he's not referring to a multiplicity of presbyters or elders. He's referring to a single office holder who holds authority over a certain area. All you need to do is go and read this for yourself. This is a long section, so I'm not going to read it to you, but if you go to earlychristianwritings.com and you look for Irenaeus of Lyon, you'll be able to find this for yourself. Again, that's book 3, chapter 3. And you don't have to go to earlychristianwritings.com. You can find this in other places, on other sites as well. Now, there's more to Against Heresies than just that. Now, I'm going to pull up some notes on my phone, so bear with me. He also says in book 3, chapter 14, section 1, "For when the bishops and presbyters who came from Ephesus and the other cities adjoining had assembled in Miletus," and it goes on. I'm not going to provide the whole rest of the quote. I think you see where I'm going with this. Bishops and presbyters, so he does give a distinction between the two, or he at least implies it, and he does this elsewhere. He says, "Wherefore it is incumbent to obey the presbyters who are in the church, those who, as I have shown, possess the succession from the apostles, those who, together with the succession of the episcopate," so he contrasts the succession of the presbyterate from the succession of the episcopate. St. Irenaeus does not say that this threefold order of ministry, bishop, priest, and deacons, is a new thing. He says this goes back to the apostles. Now, another early Christian writer who lived in the early 3rd century, named Hippolytus, who was a saint, Saint Hippolytus of Rome, also in his work, The Apostolic Tradition, makes a clear distinction between bishops, priests, and deacons. Now, in some translations, the word elder is used instead of priest, and I think I've seen a few others where the word presbyter is used, but nevertheless, it is the same idea. Now, let me read to you from, if I can find it, the first section. Oh, here we go. Of the Apostolic Tradition of Hippolytus. "We have set forth, as was necessary, that part of the discourse which relates to the spiritual gifts, all that God, right from the beginning, granted to the people according to his will, bringing back to himself this image which has gone astray." And he goes on later to say, "This is so that those who are well informed may keep the tradition which has lasted until now, according to the explanation we give of it, so that others, by taking note of it, may be strengthened." And I can provide a link to this translation in the description. And this translation is based on the work of Bernard Botte, Botte, and of Gregory Dix, Dix, just to give credit where credit is due. So what does St. Hippolytus say? He says that the stuff in this work, which includes the threefold order of bishops, priests, and deacons, goes back to the beginning. It is not a new thing. So I think I provided some pretty good evidence for the historicity of the Episcopal polity. Now, you probably want some more information. You're probably still wondering, well, why, if this is the case, that the Episcopal polity was established by the apostles, why does the New Testament use the words bishop, elder, or presbyter interchangeably? Now that's, as I've said before, the words were not really well defined at that time. However, I will post a link in the description to a lengthy article written by an Anglican bishop, I believe an archbishop, who talks about this and who can point to the Episcopal polity existing in the New Testament. And I'll just give a few examples. In Titus, the book of Titus in the New Testament, Titus is put in charge of appointing elders. Now that fits more with the Episcopal polity than the Presbyterian or the Congregational polity because you have a single person or a bishop who is in charge of ordinations. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded any of them in a while, and I'm going to try to upload some more soon. Thank you, and may God bless you. Goodbye.